Yeah, hello and welcome to this video about round 5. Round 5, that's game 5, right? Yeah, in a match you not do it in rounds. Yeah, game 5 of the World Championship match between Magnus Carlsen and Karjakin. Yeah, that match really has improved a lot over the last games. The first two games were really boring, and game 3 and 4 were really big fights where Carlsen had a huge advantage. In one case also clear winning continuation in game 3, but didn't manage to break through, and we have 4 draws up to this game. And game 5 also was a good one, can tell you that that much in case you haven't seen it yet. Let's get going here, and we have another e4, e5, and Carlsen now goes for the Italian game. I was surprised, surprised maybe, to learn that the last time this opening was played in a World Championship game was in 1981 by Karpov, when at some point he didn't have anything against Korchnoy's Open Spanish, Open Ruy Lopez. And before that we have to go back like to the, like 100 years earlier, even in 1800 something. Probably by Chigorin or somebody like that. Surprising, nobody played it, just even as a one-off alternative. The Italian game has become popular in recent years. One reason is that the Berlin is so incredibly solid, so they try other things. And Karjakin goes bishop c5. On that level, they don't risk this line. I mean, for a World Championship match, that would be really risky to play. Sacrifice a pawn and so on. Bishop c5 is played, and Carlsen goes with castling. This is already a small move order finesse. The traditional way of doing this is c3, knight f6, and now d3. White is going for a d3 based setup here. Those old lines with d4 are basically played out to equal positions, or if white risks too much, even worse positions for white. The interesting thing is, in this situation, the move c3 is generally useful for white, but not so much in one particular scenario. And this scenario is this one, where black breaks through in the center quite quickly. This line has gained momentum in recent times. And here it is not clear if in the structure white actually needs the pawn on c3, or rather, on the contrary, would be happier to have it on c2. We will see a similar situation being possible in the game, and you will see that probably this is not the most useful move in this position. So castles first, knight f6, d3, black castle, and now it's Carlsen's move. If he goes c3, we will transpose to that other move order, but instead he plays the move a4. This is getting more and more popular in the Italian game, that early a4 move. If you watch my blitz games, you will probably remember that I'm struggling with black against this setup. I simply don't understand it. It seems to be the main problem. I'm happy that I understand, I hope, most of this game, that we didn't get something where I'm saying, no idea. A4. If black now goes d5, this is something that has been tried. White will play like rook e1 next and put pressure on e5. Here it is actually quite useful that you have not played the move c3. This you will recognize in cases, for example, like this, when knight b6. If you move the bishop now, you're not potentially leave this hanging on d3. Just one possible reasoning here. In fact, here there are some tricks around. I found a game here. It's just very quick. A game like that between Grishuk and some person called Magniov. I think it's a blitz game, but still it features a funny tactic. c3, and now black played the move h6. And that failed to a standard tactic. If you want to make a small exercise out of it, pause the video and look for yourself. White now gets a big advantage, probably winning advantage with the move. Bishop takes h6. Funny tactic. So takes, and
check.
That's it. Yeah, white essentially wins a pawn, and h6 is a pretty important pawn. It's funny that he just played h6, yeah, and okay, I'll take it. Yeah, nice little tactic to remember. Okay, in the game, Karjakin just went d6. That's the conservative and I think probably best move. Now c3, and here this position has been discussed quite a bit on the top level. The main question here for black is a6 or a5. White is threatening b4 and a5 winning a piece. So I mean, black cannot just do whatever. This bishop is trapped. So he essentially has to move the a pawn. I often play, or not often, I play a6 in this position, and Karjakin does the same. As I generally play a6 in all kinds of Italian games to give this bishop a square. And I was always skeptical about the a5 move because it weakens the queen side. However, I have to say that I'm always struggling in the a6 position, and I have this suspicion maybe a5 is a very good alternative. But I have to say that I'm probably not the best advisor here because I'm struggling with black in this kind of structure, and I don't feel I've understood the subtleties really well. What it does here, a5, is clearly it stops any expansion on the queen side. On the other hand, yeah, this is square. Yeah, usually it continues like that, by the way. And I mean, I always have a hard time to believe that black is in trouble in these positions, but maybe this is my problem there, that I'm just not getting it right. Yeah, so a6 was played in the game, and b4 is a obvious move here, or one of the obvious moves. Interesting is bishop g5 here, going for a pin, and yeah, this has been seen recently, most notably in a game that I found really funny, like this. And now g4. This was played in a game between the young German grandmaster Jan Christian Schröder and Laurent Fresinet from France. Yeah, and Schröder here played the stunning move bishop h4, yeah, simply ignoring the threat to this knight. Yeah, there are some interesting ideas nowadays here in those quiet openings, right? Yeah, black now essentially has to take, otherwise he's in this awkward pin. So takes it, king g7. Yeah, and now white has a pretty comfortable situation. He can actually, if he desires, just make a draw. Yeah, this is just a repetition. Black has to cover this knight, but he can also continue as Schröder did. I mean, he was confident to continue as he runs pretty little risk, something like here, and just building up. And he got a winning position a little bit later. I don't want to analyze the game in all that detail. It's not our main concern. This is how it went, and yeah, he had like h3, and it gave white a fantastic position. The king, it's difficult for black to get out of this. So it ended in a draw, by the way, but the position was very good. So bishop g5 is a good alternative. b4, bishop a7, rook e1, knight e7, a very common maneuver. The knight is not well placed on c6. It looks at covered squares mostly and likes to go to g6, also allowed to play c6. So that looks completely thematic. d4 and now c6. Yeah, again, yeah, a very normal move, taking some squares under control. It also prepares a d5 move. Instead, black could have taken actually and played d5. This is what I initially thought would be quite okay for black. It's or this kind of transformation is what I often try to get there in this position, to have a clear structure to play against this pawn. However, here white with b5 retains a very annoying initiative. I think this position is actually pretty difficult for black. Yeah, bishop a3 is coming, queen b3 is coming. So not that he's in terrible shape, but it's not a comfortable position at all. I think Karjakin's move is good. Simply c6, h3 by Carlsen. Yeah, bishop g4 was a potentially annoying pin. This kind of belongs into the position. And now Karjakin took on d4. White recaptured with a pawn. And knight takes e4. Very interesting decision, leading to a transformation of the whole structure. The move d5, comparable to this earlier suggestion, also was certainly coming into consideration after the capture on d5, which is, well, it's not mandatory. Bishop d3 is then knight f4. Yeah, probably white will take. And here c takes is probably the move to go for. Yeah, you have to be quite alert here. Yeah? If you do something like that, yeah, white could all of a sudden get a pretty vicious attack. Taking on b4 is a real mistake there. But I mean, black can do this, and I don't think white has much in this position. I mean, it's very symmetrical, and black's pieces look fine to me. All this is round equal. This is an interesting choice. Knight takes e4. Yeah, Carlsen now went for bishop takes f7, and yeah, really got the position very, very non-symmetrical and controversial. Instead, I think this wasn't bad at all. Yeah, just to allow the fork and transpose into this position. Maybe Carlsen underestimated this position, because if you check it a little bit with engines, black is under some pressure, and maybe he evaluated it like that, but thought bishop f7 would be better. This is not all that easy here for black. This is the key idea, and black is suffering a little bit, at least. For example, yeah, here something like takes, bishop d5, and yeah, something like that isn't all that easy for black to play. Yeah, it's a little bit awkward. c6 is a bit weaker than d4. I know, I mean, white is better, but is it something that's going to win you a game? That's maybe very questionable. Maybe Carlsen saw these kind of position and thought, okay, this is just too little, not challenging all that much. But it's not fun for black, really. It's not fun. You have very little that you can do, and also note that this knight is not particularly great. If the knight, I mean, the knight rather wants to be somewhere else, yeah, on d5 or on e6, or yeah, and whenever you move it, there's maybe knight to e5, and bishop a3 is a move that comes with a tempo. It's not that clear here how black completely equalizes this. So that was a decent alternative.
Check.
Yeah, however, this happened. And now Karjakin went d5. This kind of invites the knight to c5, so you could maybe question this move. However, I think it is perfectly fine. The knight on c5 isn't the end of the world. And the alternatives aren't that great. Yeah, I mean, they are playable. Something like this, for example. But I think he was right in going d5. Here, white actually has an interesting idea, b5. It took a moment for me to understand what the engine is all about with this move, but it makes some sense. If black takes here, for example, in such a situation, the move queen to b3 will become quite annoying, yeah, with knight g5 coming, or a combination, yeah, of queen b3, knight g5. Yeah, also, if black captures this way, a further queen b3, if we, for example, assume black would take queen b3, yeah, we've got this, and this is a pin in some way. Yeah, the bishop cannot so easily move. Not a very comfortable position for black. So, I don't know, bishop f5 is probably not that great. There's also this move on bishop f5, which is probably equalish. I think d5 is fine. Yeah, Carlsen hopped into c5, of course. This is not a good square. The knight has nowhere back. It has no return ticket, let's say. Black will not blunder the rook, and the threat is h6 now. It's quite uncomfortable. I mean, the computer actually, yeah, gives this. Oops, not there. Gives this idea, but this is a completely inhuman way to play, and it ultimately doesn't lead to much. So, knight c5 is of course what he wanted. Okay, h6, that's useful. Then move knight g5 for queen here, and I'm sorry, here, all those things. H6, perfectly reasonable move. Rook A3, again a good move. And the bishop on C1 is already developed, it can stay there, and the rook now will be used on the third rank. Bishop F5, not much commentary needed there. Next move, maybe Carlsen could have improved, and this is an idea that Peter Swidler mentioned in his broadcast, I think. I'm not sure, maybe it also was Eric Hansen. I watched the broadcast on and off, and A5 is the move. Play this now. I mean, Carlsen played knight to E5, but maybe A5 was an interesting, maybe. It was a good option probably, because there will be scenarios where A6 to A5 is a tricky thing for white to handle, and A5 stops those ideas once and for all. You will immediately recognize if you look at the game continuation. Knight E5 was played, takes, pawn takes, Queen H4. That was played in the game, and now you see here, this is hanging, and A5 is an idea now undermining this outpost. If you compare this to A5, it's actually not quite clear what black's move is. And maybe he plays something like that. Yeah, that's at least what the computer suggests, and it looks logical. If white goes for the same thing now, we would actually get the game position with white having gained a tempo A5, and this is quite useful, so that you don't have to worry about A6 to E8 from black. He played this, however, immediately. Takes, and now pawn takes, as I said. Rook takes was a possibility, but clearly not very ambitious. And Carlsen wants to fight here. They actually both played quite a fighting spirit up to here and the next couple of moves. This is a possible move, but it ultimately doesn't lead to much. It's just not, let's say, doesn't put any pressure on black. If you take with a pawn, you at least have a passer. Here black is okay with the simple move Queen F8. Yeah, the idea is if you play, I should explain that. If you play here to attack the rook, kick it out, there is knight B7. The situation is actually not all that clear, and it's a playable move. Yeah, bishop B8. The idea is that here you have this kind of situation. Here black still has to be quite alert because of his weakened king side. It's however completely unnecessary to go there. If you just play here as mentioned, you're fine. The queen lends additional cover to this, and after something like this variation, black is perfectly okay. Yeah, I mean, he's got no problems. This is covered. You maybe can move the rook and later cover this if you want, or if everything else fails, just hack the knight off. So here black is also fine. So this is more interesting. Queen H4 is probably the best move. It's the most aggressive move also, and it actually gives white only white only has one really playable move now, which Carlsen found. Rook to F3. Stuff like E6 doesn't work because black can simply take. Yeah, here you get
check,
completely wiped out, or here
check, check.
You will lose something at the end here. Yeah, this is the only move. Here again, you see that having played A5 would have been quite useful. Okay, Rook F3, and now an absolutely critical situation in this game, and one that really made me like, oh, yeah. But yeah, let's have a look at black's alternatives here. What black should not do is take the pawn. That doesn't work. Gives white an important tempo, and then E6 next. This is actually already winning for white. Yeah, the pawn is just too strong. This is also pretty easily discarded for players of that level. I think the black choice here is mainly between two moves. Get rid of the knight, take on C5, just get rid of that annoying piece, or play bishop G6 and keep the tension. And this is the move that the computer suggests, and it is much more fighting, much more unbalanced, let's say, than bishop takes C5. Here, white probably will capture and play this position. Yeah, the thing is, this is not easy to play with black, or easy to play. It's not easy to decide to play that, because you probably are worried about the e-pawn. However, this pawn is stopped quite reliably by the rook and bishop controlling that square, so white is not just promoting this pawn. The whole situation is really quite unclear. The computers like black, but it is not a totally conclusive evaluation. It's just like a fraction of a pawn. This is the fighting continuation in a way. What Karjakin did is he took this knight, which really made me, as I said, oh, because with this, black basically gives up any hope to win the game if white plays well, and just again gets into some kind of passive stance, yeah, just to hold things. It's funny that this is actually some kind of a mirror image. Yeah, the knight on c5 got taken by the bishop on a7, and in game 4, Karjakin with white played bishop a2 takes c4. The pawn structure on the queen side is just about the same. Funny parallel here. Yeah, rook e8. Why am I saying that this is such a one-sided position where only white can do something? Yeah, let's have a look. Yeah, we can put in a couple of more moves like this. Here, those two pawns that black has, they are basically worthless. The b pawn will never move in this game, and the d pawn is reliably blockaded. In this position, if white gets in g4, let's paint it, g4, f4, f5, then he will win. Basically, if he gets all these moves in, he will win the game with the steamroller on the king side. White here has a huge majority, 4 against 2, and if you get it rolling, black will just be steamrolled. It won't be pretty. The thing is, however, he has this bishop on this diagonal, which initiates a good blockade. This is a little bit reminiscent of the Berlin Wall ending, where this bishop often stops the white pawns as well. But if anybody can do something, it's white. It's pretty one-sided. And yeah, this is kind of, I don't really like such decisions. Yeah? I mean, if you are the challenger for the world title, shouldn't you like try to do something a bit more actively? With bishop g6, he could have gone for something a little bit more fighting. I mean, he has to win a game after all. And here he just again is putting his money on, okay, I can defend this, but it's a pure defense. Okay, rook to f8, rook f3, and we have a rook trade now. And yeah, so here white's goal is to advance those pawns in an organized way, so that it wouldn't be good to just like push them quickly, then you would just weaken your own position. But if white gets this on the way in an organized fashion, to get this here, here, and so on, then he will be in great shape. However, once g4 and f4 is played, we should not forget about the possibility of black playing g6 and keeping a blockade on f5. This is the general outline now. White should gain the space and black should defend flexibly. What we have to say, however, what Karjakin now is doing is extremely good. Yeah, he played this extremely well, and we will see with what. Yeah, back and forth. a5 probably played to put this pawn out of a potential attack. Yeah, if the queen enters, it could attack the pawn from a5. On a5 it's more safe. The drawback of this move is that white is giving up on this long-term option, that the king could enter. In some endgames, this could be an idea. Yeah, and now we see Karjakin's idea, king f8. This is now very well played by the challenger. He found a great idea. The king is coming over to the queen side. Yeah, Carlsen is improving a little bit. And now he played g5 on move 34. That was not an easy decision, really. Yeah, like 6 moves to the time control with just 8 minutes left, or a little bit more before he started to consider the move. It was a difficult decision. When I was watching this, I couldn't really make my mind up if I would go g5 here or not. It is a good decision, it turns out. but I wasn't sure at all during the broadcast, because it also potentially allows white some ways to attack the pawns. However, it is still a good idea, because this is difficult to get in, and we'll see after a couple of moves. Yeah, rook b2 by Carlsen went over here, and the king went to c8. That now he played here g4, and this is probably not leading to anything. I mean, with hindsight, you probably should recommend that white just stays. After g4, black actually gets some chances, which is immediately coming into play with h5. Yeah, so as I said, it's a one-sided position that only white can try something, but with black having defended that well, yeah, this and this was pretty strong. Here it is probably roughly equal. Yeah, and white cannot really do something substantial. So it was a position where imprecise play certainly could have black into huge trouble, but he again defended this very well. Yeah, g4, h5, and here white needs to start to worry a little bit, because the h file might open up for black. Carlsen went queen d2, rook g7, king g3. Yeah, this move is probably not all that great, but yeah, it's move 40, right? And we have another move that's probably a little bit questionable. One thing I wanted to show is, by the way, I forgot about it. I have it in my notes. Black here, instead of going rook g7, which, especially considering it's move 39, it's very understandable. He could have opened up the position immediately. Yeah, something like this now, and probably this ends in nothing much. Something like that is probably going to be a draw. I think this is okay, keeping the tension. Yeah, king g3 is probably, with hindsight, not all that great. But, I mean, it shouldn't lose or anything, but it doesn't really help white either. Rook g8, a waiting move on move 40. Queen h6 was possible. That's a move that the engines also liked. And, yeah, the idea is to take now and play queen h4. But it seems that white ultimately should be okay with rook h2, even though it is not easy at all to play. I mean, this rook is not particularly actively placed. Something like d4 requires extreme precision from white, where again bishop d5 comes, rook f7, those kind of ideas. Black has excellent compensation here for the pawn as well. We will see something quite similar in the game, but it's kind of, you know, if you analyze such a possibility with like for 20 minutes, he had like a minute to decide, and if you have a minute, a move like rook g8 is making perfect sense. Yeah, and now we come to a funny moment here. Carlsen now played the move king g2 relatively quickly, and it's kind of it looks a little bit like back and forth. Yeah, and he explained what happened here, and this is a funny explanation, I think, because he said that he had forgotten to write down a move. Yeah, they have to. I mean, they keep normal score sheets like they all do, and even in the lowest possible league or in junior tournaments. It's the same thing also in the World Championship match. They keep scores on a piece of paper, and he had somehow forgotten to write down a move. Yeah, so he was on his score sheet. He was on move 39 now, and had to make move 40, not move 41. And somehow when he got the time added after move 40, but it confused him, and he said that just to make sure, okay, I'll make a relatively quick move now, and played this king g2. And this could have led into some really, really substantial problems. And we'll see now. Let's go to the next page here. Yeah, he probably should play something like rook h2, but it's yeah, this one. This is also a little bit better for black now, yeah, because there is this possibility to open up for black whenever he wishes, it's really not obvious what white should do. Still, it's better than the game. King g2. So what happened now? Black took on g4, taken with the h pawn. You cannot do this, by the way. That just loses. What do I have here? Yeah, d4 is the thing. Yeah, clearing the square for bishop d5 check. Yeah, like
check.
This is the key idea with the absolutely brutal threat rook takes h3. So yeah, something like that is
check. Check. Checkmate.
Yes. It's a mate. So very, very problematic for white. Yeah, it's probably lost. The engine wants to do this. And check. If you look at this position, you know something went terribly wrong for white. So he has to take with the h pawn. And yeah, critical situation again. Black now has basically two moves. He can try to start doubling on the h file. Try to get queen h1 in, something like that. Or he can play the game move, which is the move d4. A clearance move, giving up this pawn that probably will never promote anyway, and give the black bishop access to d5 where it eyes the white king. Those two moves come into consideration. After queen h6, white probably will go here to blockade this d pawn, and this basically keeps the bishop out of the game. Of course, you can imagine that black in somewhat later time could play like this, but this is rather, yeah, that takes time. Yeah, and okay, first of all, black will of course go on to the h file. Let's have a look there. Rook h8, no, queen h4, king f1. That is my line. Rook f8. King e2, rook f4, this kind of thing. This is quite uncomfortable for white, quite obviously. Yeah? The rook is invading. But on the other hand, it is fairly difficult to imagine that black can win this without the bishop somehow. I mean, it's not like the bishop is doing nothing. It blockades this pawn and can potentially sacrifice. But if you compare this to d4, I think from a human player's perspective, d4 makes, I mean, that makes perfect sense. Yeah? You include this bishop, activate it, and the pawn is not that valuable anyway. So this makes perfect sense for a human player. I think it's the best move, actually. Just give the pawn away, activate. Also, white is now posed with a problem. How do you recapture? Can take with the bishop or with the queen. Carlsen took with the queen, and yeah, this is probably wrong, but playing this position is absolutely dreadful for white by now. It's really uncomfortable to play. If he takes with the bishop, queen h7 is what I looked at. King g1, yeah, you have to get this, prepare these kind of things. Queen h3, queen e2. This is more or less forced, and yeah, black now is just pressing, yeah, like here, and then bishop d5. I've got this is the main line of the engine. Bishop c3, bishop d5, rook h2, queen takes, and in this position, white might hold,
check,
but it's not fun. Still not fun. And you have to get that far in the first place. It's from a practical point of view also very, very problematic to play. Queen takes seems a little bit seems worse actually, even though completely conclusive it is not. First, we have to check now what did Karjakin do now. If you say bishop d5, you're right. Yeah, it's the absolutely obvious looking move. It turns out, however, that it probably is not the best move. And this is, yeah, this is a bit computer chess, right? The computer does not want to play the natural looking move bishop d5, but rather wants to go into the h file first. And this leads to, now white has to dodge bullet after bullet. I really think that this would have won for black in this game, in a practical game. I don't see anybody defending this position. It starts here. White only has one move that does not get annihilated immediately. It's queen to e4, queen h6. For example, I mean, let's look at one move here. This is something that is possible. Queen h6, just to show how quickly it can go downhill. It's just
check.
It's just pretty bad. So here, yeah. So queen e4 is the only move that works somewhat. And now we get a position like
check.
that. Bishop d5 and something like that. This is the main line of the engine. I mean, maybe objectively, objectively is wrong, but if you take this as a mathematical problem, maybe white will hold. The thing is that here you have to be skeptical, or you have to dig relatively deep, because the opposite colored bishops, they actually provide black here with those attacking chances, but they also give white exit strategies, yeah, to like simplify to an ending 2 pawns down that are still a draw. This is easily possible. For example, if we imagine an ending just with bishops, white would in most cases easily draw if he, let's say, if black has those 4 pawns and white only has a and c pawn. Yeah, this would probably easily draw, because you can put a bishop on b6, a king on like here, and you will draw. It's a fortress. So it's not totally clear if black objectively wins here or not. It's something that you would need to analyze with the engine quite extensively. However, in a practical game, this is hell for white. I mean, you kind of, there are all kinds of mines you can step onto and just boom, you're toast. Yeah. I think this would have been extremely awkward. Yeah, Karjakin played this natural move, and I think what I read is that he noticed, yeah, while Carlsen now was considering his choice, that he noticed that rook h8 probably would have been better. But this is not something, I mean, where you can criticize him all that much. e6 now played by Carlsen. This is the most natural move, and it probably is sufficient to get white back into this position. Computers want to go here and give 0-0-0. Funny enough, they calculate deeply enough to see that. It's however still quite scary looking. Yeah, black has this entry idea. Computers say it's a draw, but I think the continuation chosen by the world champion is completely understandable. You want to get rid of this pawn to open up the position a little bit and maybe give some counterplay. If you imagine the white queen coming here, for example, or later we'll see that rook e2, e5 is coming. So you open up and maybe you can get in black's king. So taken, of course. King g3. This is a good coordination move, maybe allowing for rook h2. This is, I think, probably the last moment where Karjakin could have tested Carlsen a little bit more. I think king b8, intending to get the king out of this, would have been still quite awkward, because here it's not, there's no clear path now to a draw. I mean, the white king is still more insecure. It's however difficult to analyze this position because there are quite a number of possibilities. I think the practical chances here for black would be still quite high. It's not fun to play, really not. He went queen e7, however. Yeah, this introduces this idea, for example. But this was a good reply here by Carlsen. The idea is to play rook h8, get rid of one rook. If a rook is traded, this is not going to be that difficult to draw. Yeah, simply the firepower is reduced of black as an attacker, and so this is a very helpful thing if you can get it in. Yeah, queen f7 now was played to attack f3. This was an alternative, checking and forcing f4. Then this position here is really yeah, difficult to play. That was an opportunity for Karjakin to play for a win like at all costs, but here you have to see that, okay, the white king is open, but don't underestimate the g-pawns here. That they can be tricky, especially if somehow yeah, the white king is not getting mated, yeah, then those pawns can be a huge factor as the king supports them. So this is a very risky decision, and I understand that he didn't want to go there. Yeah, so queen f7, which somehow the software does not want to play out. Maybe I'm on for too long here. Let me check. Yeah, probably. What's going on here? Now my software crashed. That's crazy. That's crazy. In the middle of recording. What the heck? Okay. Huh. That's weird. Let's try again. Oh, I actually have a general internet issue. That's funny. Oh, wow. I'm sorry about this glitch. I thought it would be easily fixed here. Yeah, you know, I've got some guys here, not I mean, I have I live here in, come on, I have a couple of apartments here, and they changed the electricity of the doorbells, and maybe they turned off something, and my router got rebooted or something. I have to probably put the, can I do that actually? Put the moves on the board. There are just a couple of moves left to play. Yeah, queen f7. Come on, queen f7 now. I think I can just put them on the board. Queen f7 was played by Karjakin, attacking the pawn, and now Carlsen managed to go f4 here. Yeah, takes.
Check.
And queen takes. Yeah, and here the worst is definitely over. The black king is also somewhat open now. Yeah, note that was one idea. I had to put it, I cannot draw anymore. Put them on a7 or a8. Yeah, I think this is what comes now is fairly logical. Black shouldn't trade here. Yeah? That would be unpleasant. Play against the g-pawn. So he put the queen here, keep it on the board, and now this is also very logical, intending rook e5 or rook g5 for the trades, rook f5. Yeah, rook f8, and after rook h7, white definitely had secured the draw. Funny move. Yeah, black queen cannot move. Yeah, this mate on c7, so we have this one. And now rook e4 did force the rook trade, and here they agreed to a draw. Yeah, a position like that is just completely dead. Yeah, black is quick enough with the king, or I cannot draw here, with bishop and king to stop the g-pawn, so it's a draw. Yeah, a good fighting game again, where I think Karjakin probably missed opportunities. Not probably, he did miss some opportunities, but it all wasn't trivial. It's not like that there's something super easy that he missed. Yeah, Carlsen had a good position, I think, before the time control, but it didn't feel, or it was not obvious how to improve. It looked one-sided, but it's difficult to improve, especially considering how good Karjakin played. Yeah, bringing the king over g5 seemed to be a very good plan. So I think a good game. Carlsen was a bit sloppy there with, yeah, if he really screwed it up with the score sheet, that's pretty annoying to get into such a troublesome situation simply because you forgot to write a move down. So that was game 5. Game 6 is played on November 18th, Friday. Karjakin has white in this game, and he will have also white in game 7. They switch the the colors there. So there are 2 whites now for the challenger, and this will be certainly key, you know, will he be able to maybe score with the white pieces, or what will happen? Karjakin really was extremely, I think, unimpressive in the opening so far. He was usually worse and couldn't get anything great in. So maybe he will do something with those 2 white games now. Yeah, thanks a lot for watching, guys. Bye-bye.